All right, let's start. So, hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining in today. It's our first Reconnect webinar today, and I'm thankful for who has joined today. And obviously, we're recording this webinar, so it'll be available for everybody on our WhatsApp channel as well. I'm Rashmi from Ray Recruiters. I've been in the recruiting game for about 3 to 4 years at the moment, and predominantly I concentrate on allowing GPs to come to Australia and for them to find themselves a suitable job. We look after the end-to-end process, so it's not a matter of just giving you a job, but also paperwork, making sure that you're settled, making sure you have possible accommodation, and also making you feel that it's actually a home, and also having constant engagement with the clinic and yourself. So along with me, I have Dr. Guru, who's obviously taken time out today to talk a little bit about navigating pathways to Australia. I'll hand it over to Guru for your introduction, and we are planning to have a bit of a Q&A sort of format at this stage. And if any questions, please be free to put on the chat, and we can revert back with the answers. So handing it on to you, Dr. Guru.
Hi, so my name is Guru. I'm an emergency physician by training. I've been in Australia for 20 odd years now, and I've been a specialist for close to 14, 15 years now. I actually studied in Bangalore and then moved to UK. I was in UK, I think between 2003 and 2006, and I left sort of UK in 2006. So I have been that path and have some idea of how it is to live in UK and and how it is on this side. So I thought I can share some of my learnings or challenges that I found, and also what makes Australia special, or something, at least in my view, a better place to be. So I wanted to share that journey and then answer any questions that people might have.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. So we'll get straight into it. So, Dr. Guru, if you could tell us in your experience, what was that first year for you to sort of like settle into Australia, and how different did you find that from the UK?
Look, in all honesty, these days you've got lots of information available, but back in 2005, 2006, there's not much available. So I literally, when I moved to Australia, I had to look up where Canberra was, where Perth was, where Bunbury was, and stuff. So that my first job was in Bunbury. So I came. It was a culture shock. Australia is very, very, very different to UK. Yes, you might think like it's a Western world and the culture, it won't be that different, but trust me, it is. It's quite different. The difference is quite striking as soon as you land here. So just to share an experience, I left. I was working in Midlands and I left Manchester via Heathrow, and when I left Manchester, it was -7 degrees, and I landed in Perth and it was 40 degrees.
Wow.
And then I come via Heathrow, one of the biggest airports, and I land in Perth Airport. Perth Airport then was more like a glorified tin shed. So it was a very different place. But also even coming to Sydney, Sydney is sort of a bit more metropolitan, and you see many more people here, and then there's so much to do and so much to sort of the city offers quite a lot. And in last 20 years, things have changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But what you will notice is that the people are quite different. The approach to everything is quite different. The weather definitely is different. And in general, the lifestyle I feel in Australia is a bit more relaxed and a bit more family friendly. And I feel you have a better balance out here. And I was there when the NHS was going through changes, and then they were bringing the modernizing medical system and all those things. And I was there when all these things were happening. So and then I moved here. So I don't know. I haven't been back for a while now, but what I hear is that it's still quite challenging from that point of
Yep,
view.
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So that's great.
yeah.
Yeah. That's great that obviously you could see the difference weather-wise. And how about practice-wise? I guess that's a very important question UK candidates
So
want to know
look,
because yeah,
yeah, I think Australia is much more structured. It's a
yeah,
good balance between American and British system. Though we take a lot of things from British system, I
yeah,
feel in Australia you can provide much better care to the patients, and
yeah,
you have much more control over your professional career and like how you work, how much you want to work. And clinically, I think you do much more here compared to what we used to do in in UK.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, overall, I felt that I could look after patients better here than my experience back in UK.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously, you know that when GPs come, there's a bit of a structure change with the payment because obviously back in UK, GPs get a set amount of salary, whereas obviously here the main concern is that it's a billing system. Obviously, hospitals are quite different because they have a structured salary as well. But in saying that, I believe that GPs earn more over here compared to the UK. But what are your thought process on that?
So look, GP practice in Australia is more like running a business. So you can work for a GP who's running a practice, but most of them eventually they end up becoming partners or opening their own
Yep.
practices. And it's like running. So medicine is one bit. The other bit is also it's like running a business. With
Yep.
that comes a lot of autonomy. Yes, there are challenges, but also there's a lot of autonomy as to how you want to work, how much you want to work, where you want to work. And also, it helps when you're running a business in Australia because you have lots of tax um, strategies that you can put in, which you can't do much when you're just an employed.
Yes.
And as I said, like I think the biggest thing is the flexibility that you get. Unlike when you're in UK where you're just paid and you have your set patients and you're set. And also here you can venture out. You can sort of do skin clinics and many you can branch out and do many things. There are people who are doing
Yeah.
skin clinics. They're doing sexual health clinics, ops, gynae, pediatrics. There are so many options, and all that is built on top. So I think it's you work much more autonomously here, both clinically and also as a business, rather
Yep.
than being stuck to one thing and then being guided everything by someone else telling you and putting those restrictions as to what you can do, what you can't do. And
So
especially it is even more important for people who have done other things and then gone into GP land. So maybe
yep.
someone has done some surgical terms, someone has done some ops gynae or ED and then become a GP. And those skills can be utilized very well in Australia.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I totally vouch for that because working with different GP practice, autonomy, I think I've heard a lot of UK candidates tell me that autonomy that they get here versus that of the UK is, moon and earth sort of difference. So definitely that's a great tenure. I guess the other thing UK GPs always look at is, I guess, locations. So, we obviously have the Monash model, which is a triple M1 DPA, which Australia is kind of very kind enough with the expedited specialist pathway for them to work on this area. So, what do you think is an ideal location, and what should candidates really look into when they're trying to sort of choose a location?
Yeah, look, this is something which I've been thinking quite a bit. So, like, I was in US recently, and I was just thinking about their medical system and how it is. Even
Yeah,
like in the US and UK is sort of similar because you've got lots of the whole country is populated everywhere. But Australia is very different in that way because
yeah,
town to town is a flight away. So look, it depends on what level. So like in your personal life, where you are, what's your
yeah,
at what stage you are. If you're a young person just finished and want to move in, I would suggest that like you should probably start off in a slightly rural area rather than if especially if as a GP, it's because it's easier to get job, it's more stable,
yeah,
and then the
yeah,
opportunities to develop your skills and grow is much more. However, like, if you've got kids and if you want to stay in the city, then that becomes a bit of a challenge, especially if you're going into MM2 and stuff, because there's not many. Everything is
That's true.
at
Yeah.
least an hour away, hour and a
Yeah.
half away from this city. Um,
Yeah.
like, but my belief is like, unless you're going to remote, like, really remote bush areas, most second, third tier cities are not bad. I started my journey in Bunbury in Western Australia, which is like 150, 200 kilometers south of Perth.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's where my first job was. So, like, from there I slowly ventured out and got to like, moved around and ended up in Sydney. So, like, eventually you will get where you want to. But once again, like, if you've got like slightly grown up kids and you want to be in a city, that's a different challenge that you have. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too scared to go to second and third tiers towns
Yes.
and cities, to be very honest. And the other things are like, I used to work at Canberra quite often, and then I have got
Yeah.
friends there who lived in Canberra who used to drive an hour each way,
Yeah.
and then go and practice. So, and in all cities in Australia are like, the facilities are pretty good compared to
Yeah.
many other places. So I won't worry too much about that.
Yes, because often I get questions asked about locations if it's too rural, or even if you're talking about triple M1. Like, we're quite lucky in Melbourne because we have DPA areas which are sort of in the periphery of Melbourne
Yeah,
city. But unfortunately, in Sydney, you're looking at distances like, near to Newcastle. But that's beautiful as well. I guess
yeah,
what candidates should
absolutely.
really look, yeah, I think what candidates should really look out is that if they're a good practice, they have supervision, they get the presentations that's required for them to complete their fellowship, and
Yeah,
if they're able to have that support system, I think that's very important,
yeah,
because a lot
absolutely.
of them would want to just sort of be, they're very keen to get closer to the city, but they just don't understand the flip side of it, that look, you get the corporate mix that happens in the city center, but obviously you don't have much happening around that area. So fortunately, we have clinics which are sort of like 1 hour away, 1.5 hours away, like Wollongong, Newcastle, Cessnock, which
So
are
look,
beautiful areas. Yeah.
I, I would not even blink my eyes going to Wollongong or Newcastle or Cessnock, because
Yeah,
it's not like you're going to some remote this thing. These are second
exactly.
tier cities, and like, you've got every facility available to you. The schools are good, and like, you've got beaches, you've got amazing weather, and like,
Yeah.
I would not even consider these a periphery, to be very honest. I have got my
Yeah.
half my staff come from Central Coast, and
Yeah.
they travel every day. So, like,
Wow.
and my previous boss, when I was working at Liverpool, used to drive from Wollongong to. So, people choose to live in this area, though they are working in the city. I
Yeah.
would not even think twice about going to those areas.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I sometimes find that a challenge when I'm actually trying to convince a candidate for a location. It always comes down to the other part of it is the whole relocation package which comes with it. And we understand that UK GPs obviously are putting themselves and coming to Australia, but I guess the decent relocation package, what would you think, like in your blind spot? Obviously, you came many, many years ago when relocation package was non-existent, I would suppose. But like, what do you think would be sort of like the key attractive relocation packages?
Well, look, that's something which it depends on where you're going and like, where you're coming from, and
Yeah,
there are lots of other things. But look, once again, when I came, I was pretty young, and for me, they paid like my travel expenses and they paid me my relocation
yeah,
expenses. So literally the movers and stuff, and that's all they paid.
yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
I was happy with that, because look, one thing you will see in Australia is the pay rate. First few years might be a bit hard, but like, no, a bit challenging, but like, once you settle a bit, your pay rates go up significantly, and financially you'll be much more stable, and then it's much more rewarding financially. So I would not like, look, if that is what it's coming to, I would not even worry too much about it. A bit this
yeah,
side, that side, I would not think twice, because look, you don't want to miss an opportunity of having a better life, a better play, a work-life balance for like, $500,000, $2,000. It's like, most of them, they look at that small, but what you need to look at is 10, 20 years down. And look, the other thing I'll
100%.
also say is I haven't seen anyone who had moved from UK and who said like, oh, I don't like it here, I want to go back. I have never heard anyone say that. Yes, one or two of them have gone back. That is because of the family reasons, because like, they had it. But no one ever has told me, oh, look, my lifestyle was so much better, I'm going back to UK. Not even. I've been here for 20 years, and I train a lot of UK doctors,
Yes.
and never heard.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's such great thought that you put there, because often some candidates miss out just because it might be because they don't get a car hire or they don't really get, accommodation. And I tell them, look at the bigger picture. What is important is that you have supervision on site, because that's really impactful for the first 6 months. And then you're looking at the presentations, because if you're closer to an Aboriginal town, the more the exposure to the presentations and able to upskill yourself from where you sort of
Absolutely.
want to pull forward. So
Yeah. Look,
that's what,
I
yeah. So
came to
that's
this
what I
country with
think.
$5,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so like
Yeah.
now, and we have built a life for ourselves. Both my kids go to private school, and like, we are
Yeah.
living in North Shore in Sydney. So like, if you work hard and like, and if you're wanting to do it, look, you will have a good lifestyle. I would never ever suggest anyone to think about the relocation package as a big deal. Yes, you
Yeah.
need it for that period of time to sustain and go through, but in long run, like, trust me, that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. No, that's really great. And then close, just also if you could, the different type of alternatives that GPs, like we have skin cancer, we have, aesthetics, we have women's health, and
Yeah.
sort of talking on those sort of periphery. So even if you come from a surgical background and moving to a GP practice, you still how do you think in your viewpoint have you seen like doctors adapting to those sort of strategies?
Yeah,
Because a lot of
look,
them I know, yeah.
one of my very close friends, actually my roommate from university, he did his GP training in UK and he's moved. So he actually works in Wollongong,
Oh,
near Wollongong.
yeah.
And like, came here and he owns a practice now, and he runs a skin clinic. He does a bit of psych reviews and stuff, and he does some geriatric reviews. He works in a with aged care facilities and stuff. And then like, there's some, and I know some GPs who have gone back to rural and who do scopeless, who do sort of general surgical lists, like simple abscess draining and all those things, simple appendix and stuff. Like, there are people who have gone off and done actually ops gynae, so they are delivering babies. So actually, one of my trainees now at SAN is from, he was working in Northern Territory. So I think he was near Catherine, and he's an ED advanced trainee, and he's got some GP training. But like, he was delivering babies, he was doing C-sections. So there is no limit of what you want to do. It's just like, how much you want it. So there are skin stuff, cosmetics. You can do scopes, you can do anesthetics. There are GP anesthetics. When you go to rural areas and stuff, they run EDs in rural areas. So the options are unlimited. I would, yeah, it just depends on your interest and how much, what you want to do.
Yeah, and often you're seen as well, doctors who come to a hospital setting and then they change their mind to GP because of flexibility of work, making sure that they can, and a lot of doctors who actually complete their AMC1 and AMC2 now have the privilege of actually moving across to a fellowship support program as well, in the rural areas, which is a huge step by Australia
Yeah.
because it's actually identified the number of GPs that is sort of present here and would like to sort of move into a GP practice, making them so much more easier. So, what would you say to those doctors who are coming on that pathway, and define how would hospitals sort of regime differ from them making a decision to a GP pathway?
Oh, look, once again, if you want to be just work in the GP land, you can do that. or if you want to work in the hospital, you can. But like I have got quite a few GPs who are GPs working in their practices, but they come and spend a day or two in ED, and they
Yeah.
actually are involved in acute care of the patients. So there is all sorts of options. As I said, like that is one of the best thing about Australia is it gives you options. It's just how much you want to do. It's not about like
Yeah.
restricting or putting a line and say this is what you need. You can go off and do anything. You can sort of run EDs by yourself. You can run sort of urgent care clinics. That's a big
Yes.
thing now. So there are lots of GPs with acute care, especially ED training. They are going into urgent care centers where they are like dealing with minor traumas, someone who's sort of moderately sick, doing IV fluids and all those things, minor procedures. So there are lots and lots of options once again. And like if you don't want to, you can do FACRM. So FACRM gives you an opportunity to work in emergency department, but also as a GP and
Yeah.
as a rural specialist.
Yes.
And like there are GPs who do their GP practice and then in hospital they work as hospitalists. And there
Yep.
are GPs who are doing their clinic and then come in as surgical assistants. So there are lots and
Yep.
lots of opportunities.
Yeah. No, that's great because we really emphasize on location. We emphasize on relocation. We've also given light on how lifestyle is different. I think I'd like to close up with saying that what is it? How does the first year for a new GP look like? And how do they sort of like pave their way? Because you're coming in with a lot of expectations, and sometimes they might sort of get carried away with a very far-sighted goal rather than the goals that they actually came from or get carried away. Uh, how do you think that would sort of diminish over time? And like you said, Australia is such a great place. It has a combination of US and UK. But for them to sort of like have that ingrained that, look, it's a new start. We got to start from the scratch, even though you're beyond the comfort level. I guess that's where a lot of my candidates come from. They're very comfortable. And for them to sort of like, but they definitely want to make the move because NHS is diminishing. So, what are your small tricks for them that they need to keep in mind?
So look, what I would say is when I came to this country, compared to that 20 years on, like the amount of resources people have is phenomenal. And like, and then that's where like I like working with people like you because there are lots of people who are wanting to provide that end-to-end service. You have people whom you
Yeah,
can connect to. And the reason I started MedGuru was the whole thing is that like when you come to a new country, you don't know where to go, whom to ask and stuff.
that's correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
there might be people doing bits and pieces, but I wanted to provide that platform. And
Yeah.
and there are lots of people here to help. There are lots of
Yes.
resources available. So I would not, yes, first few weeks, trust me, anyone who is coming, you will sort of maybe even 6 months, you'll keep thinking, or was that the right decision? Should I have like, and I was had a
Yeah.
like amazing life and all. And a year or 2 years down the lane, you will forget all that, and like, you will not like none of that matters. It is scary, it is challenging, but trust me, I have not seen anyone who has come over from UK and stayed here who has suffered or like who has got to a point like, oh my god, I can't make a living or I'm sort of struggling or anything like that. So that has never happened.
Yeah. Perfect. So I'm going to now open the floor for any questions for any of our GPs. So we have about, say, 5 to 10 minutes. And if you want to put your questions to the chat or if you want to unmute yourself and sort of like ask us, that would be great as well. All right. So I have one question over here. Uh, which is, I think, quite skeptical first. So one of the questions asked is that how much would I earn in my first year as a GP?
That's that's a very interesting question because it's like uh, how long is a rope? Look, all I can say is you will earn enough to lead a reasonably comfortable life.
Yeah.
Like, it can be anywhere. So it depends on lots of things, your circumstances, the practice where you're working, where you're living. There's a lot that depends on. Like, but look, I have once you start as a GP, like at least 150, 200,000 sort of is what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
then I know GPs who are going up to 600, 700,000 and like even more. And once again, depends, are you coming just as an employee? Are you coming as a partner? And like now you're just doing GP work? Are you doing some surgical stuff? So there are lots of things, but all
Yeah.
I would say is you will earn enough to have a reasonably comfortable life. Like,
Yeah.
don't expect to have a luxurious life in first 6 months to a year, but you will have a comfortable life. I don't think
Yeah.
you will earn enough to have a good house, a car, and like good food and like ability to fly to wherever you need to and stuff. So like I don't think that um should be a big deal, to be very honest.
100%. Yeah, and I watch with that because I work with practices myself, so I see what their per day earnings are, how they actually market a GP when they actually start. So you'll be very comfortable, definitely. You'll be able to sort of uh, like what Dr. Guru said, it's going to be owning a house shouldn't be a problem. Having enough sort of, resources to actually support your family should always be there, will always be there. It's not that you're coming here and you're obviously having kids not having the right education. Schools are amazing. Public schools are a great start as well. Like there are many good public schools before you sort of like move to a private school. So you don't have to straight away come and sort of say that I need to they need to actually be in a private school. They can actually start off in some good public. And as you elevate and increase your billings, you'll definitely be able to elevate your lifestyle. So definitely can
Sure.
watch for that. All right. Our next question is more so with regards to weather. How is Australia weather?
I
What
don't
is,
want.
oh,
I don't think that's a question to answer at all. Like, any day,
yeah,
hands down, Australian weather is far, 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 far better than UK weather. Any day.
for sure.
And like, it's not just me
Yeah.
saying, like, many of my trainees, many of my friends, and like having lived in UK myself, trust me, the
Yeah.
weather here is so
I
much better.
know. Yeah.
I would not, that's not even a question to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You have more, I think, warmer days here compared to the UK, and there's always clear skies. And the best thing, I guess, you have beaches. It's a combination of like mountains, beaches. It's very different. So you're not going to obviously be, really worried about the weather part of it. Yeah.
No, no, look,
Oh,
there are some bits where it might get bit cold and sometimes it might get bit hot, but trust me, any day I would take Australia over UK. And one of the reasons I moved was like I come from Bangalore, where we are used to like Bangalore has one of the best weathers in India.
yeah.
So for me to go to UK, I sort of felt like, oh my God, what has happened? Like I go to work, it's dark. I come home, it's dark, and it's gray and wet and miserable. And like that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I had to get out. So yeah, look, weather is amazing. Like if you are coming from UK, you should not even think twice. Um, Wherever you go, yes, there are some sort of bit might some weather some places might be a bit warmer, some a bit colder, but overall I think the weather here is amazing. And if you
Yeah.
really 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 want miss UK weather and like you want the best of the like if I can say, like if you take the best weather in UK, and then if you want to, if you're used to that and that's what you want, you just go to Melbourne. You have that almost pretty much whole year.
Yes. 100%.
The
Yeah,
best
that's
weather
true.
of UK in Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah. So the one last question, obviously from um, one of the GPs, I'm just going to read it out, is that for combining ONG with GP, do I have to do some paperwork or is there any to pathway or I can do based on my past experience? So I think the doctor is sort of asking with regards to combining her ONG experience with GP and how she can sort of face it here. I think I can take that on board because I do work with a lot of female GPs and who have ONG experience.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll be in demand because a female GP with those skills, you're going to be earning private billings. You're going to have private earnings because you're going to be doing all those procedures that you don't really need to go to a hospital, and they would definitely want a female consultant, a GP. I myself, I have a female GP with me for like almost like 10 years now. I go to her for everything because right from cradle to sort of death, you get attached with them. So whatever skills you have, we can combine it with your GP training and you're able to sort of like move forward with that. So that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah, so Australia is quite liberal in that. And especially if you're away from the main sort of, if you're away from the center of the cities, you can use your skills really well. And yeah, it's not very difficult to sort of get into those special skills.
Yep, that's very true. And the good thing is that your earnings, your billings will be relatively higher because all these are actually private bill items and it will potentially increase your billings quite rapidly. So you definitely have to just stick with a GP, and that's how you can combine the post guidance skills that you've given to yourself to this pathway. Uh, I have, maybe we'll answer one more if that's okay, Dr.
Yeah,
Guru.
sure.
So the other question that they obviously have potentially asked is with regards to paperwork, how
Yeah.
to get across the paperwork. I guess, what do I say? We both are in the business for that, aren't we?
Yeah, look, it's a bit challenging, but it's not something, it's not unsurmountable. It, I wouldn't worry too much about the paperwork. And I think Rashmi will guide you through those things, and it's not that difficult. Once you have everything that is necessary, they don't make a big fuss about it.
Yeah. Look, we take, like I said, our whole end-to-end sort of consult is to make sure that, we provide that end-to-end potential. Look after your paperwork, make sure that everything's covered, and then obviously deliver it to you. So we in fact cover the APRA paperwork, we cover the supervised plan, we also do your resume. So we don't burden you with like those extra sort of work because obviously moving itself is a challenge. So obviously we don't want to burden you with that extra work. So we're more than happy to help you. And we also have a WhatsApp channel that I can share sort of towards the end of this as well. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming through. And we would love to touch base with you sooner. Look, you can always book a consult with us through our WhatsApp group. I'll share the link on this chat. And if you want to consult with Dr. Guru and myself, we're more than happy to take some time, book a consult, and we can guide you throughout the way. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good morning,
Thank
everybody
you.
in the UK. And the recorded version will be available on our socials, our YouTube channel, and on our WhatsApp group. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.